Hello, everyone. I am so excited for Ask the Intern in ICT. This is one of the last events we have for our College of Communication and Information Career Month. I hope you have gone to other events. If not, totally cool. At least you're at this one. I am Brooke Nowicki, so I'm the career coordinator for our college. We are going to record this, so it'll be on the website later too. But the first thing I wanted to do is to let our panelists introduce themselves. Jeremy, do you want to start with your name, major, year, and most recent internship, please?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jeremy Brentzel, senior here, studying ICT. For people who aren't in ICT, that's Information Communication Technology. And my most recent internship is with the Kentucky Army National Guard. I work as a signal systems support specialist. And if you want to look it up, the job code is 25U. So it shows you the job description is public. So
Thank you, Jeremy. Hosna, can you go next, please?
Hi everyone, my name is Hosna Shahzad, and I'm a senior. This is my last semester. I'm studying information communication technology, which is ICT, and I'm concentrating in technology management. My current internship is with Coastal, and I am working as a Salesforce analyst. So if you want to look into that job, it's a Salesforce analyst job with Coastal. And yeah, I'm so happy to be here and answer any question that you have.
Thank you. Fernanda, you're up.
Hello, my name is Fernanda Fuentes. I am a junior this year, and my major is also ICT. And my internship is actually within the Department of ICT in the College of Communication Information Sciences. I'm working with Dr. Dowell, who was a professor of mine last year, and she teaches ICT policy. And because I'm pre-law, it kind of meshes both of those fields perfectly. And so I'm just doing an internship with her, and I'm joining her on a research study this semester. And I'm just tagging along on her research on one of her research projects.
Love that. So, in case y'all were not aware, out of our five undergraduate majors within CI, four of them do require an internship prior to graduation. One of those lucky majors is ICT. I want to talk about, and all of you can answer, or one of you, just feel free. How did you go about finding this internship? I know that's a common question from my students is, okay, where do we even start to look for an internship?
I think I can answer to that question. So for me personally, the way I found Coastal, this is my second internship, first of all, I have to say that because my first one was in Ohio. So the way I found my internship was through career fair. I attended one of the career fairs like back in 2023, and I met Sarah, who was coordinating internship for Coastal. So through that, we talked on the boot and she wanted my resume and I give it to her. And then after a week, she sent an email and said, if you're willing to come and interview. And of course, at that time, I had another internship already set up in Ohio. So I had to accept that one because that was most interested to me. And then this year, I did an internship with Coastal. So I would say for me, LinkedIn and going to career fairs was like a big thing for finding internships. I found both of my internships through LinkedIn and going to career fairs on campus.
uh, for me, um, they have a lot of government positions open on USA Jobs. I was, so my story, it's like not traditional, I guess, because I enlisted in the National Guard as a 25 uniform, which is what I do now. But to get the position that I'm in now with like the 20 hours per week, there's a website called USA Jobs that I had to go on. And that is a website that anybody can go on to, and it's for any government position, like local government, state government, or federal government. You can hop on there, USA Jobs, and there you can see what positions are available based on like certain criteria. And there was a 25 uniform full time, well, like it's a full time position. It's like hybrid, so like sometimes I go in, sometimes I don't. Uh, but I'm able to use it as internship credit because they needed someone there to work on like communication systems and stuff like throughout the week. So
I basically just hounded my professor from last year for over a year, begged her to let me join on one of her research studies. So that's just going to office hours, and then staying after class to talk about a specific topic or anything.
I love that. I love that. Can y'all talk about, we've talked about how to find the internship, but what about the interview process? Was there anything that surprised you? Is there anything that you wish someone would have given you either a little bit of warning or told you to practice beforehand?
so for mine, they made me take like an aptitude test to make sure like before you went into this position, like you actually knew like a little bit about like the technologies that you use. So I wish I would have known that like going in, because based on how you do in the aptitude test, it coordinates with what your pay scale is going to be for the duration of the internship. So for mine, I'm a GS9, so it's like pretty much like entry level ish on the government scale, but I don't get paid a salary. I'm on hourly since I'm doing the internship. Now, once the internship's done, I'll roll into like the full time position. But I wish I knew that I had to take like an aptitude test like before that. And then for like anybody that's going into those jobs, check the clear like a government job, check the clearance to make sure you don't need a secret or top secret, because that's a whole like vetting process that luckily I already had done. But had I not, like it kind of prolongs the process because they have to like do background checks and make sure like you're good to go, because there's like critical systems that we work on and stuff like that.
Hosna, Fernanda, anything about the interview process? Any questions that might have taken you slightly off guard?
Yeah, I think one thing that I want to say is that being prepared with lots of real life scenarios is really good. Because during my interview, I got a lot of question about, tell me about a time that you worked on a team. And this is just like one example of it. Now I had previous example, I had previous internship, and I was able to like talk through that. But I would say for someone who is like their first internship and they're going through an interview, they're gonna ask a lot of questions about that. Tell me about a time that you worked on a team, or tell me about a time that you worked on a project and you were struggling with a team member. What did you do? So I would say being prepared and have a couple of examples and projects that you worked on and how you handled the situation will be a good thing to like remember and have it, because you're gonna get a bunch of those questions on an interview.
So with my specific experience, this semester, I didn't really have an interview process. I had already formed kind of a personal relationship with my supervisor, I guess. But for any interview that I have had in the past, a piece of advice that I would probably say is to go into it with three solid stories, that kind of where each story talks about at least a set of values that you want to have the interviewer know about you by the end, and then somehow find a way to incorporate those three stories into the answers. That's just a piece of advice that one of my high school teachers gave me once, and I'll leave it at that.
I love it. I know we're keeping it somewhat general because I know the class is spread out, but this one's a little more specialized within ICT. Are there any courses or anything you learned from your educational background that you were like, wait, this is really great for me to highlight and really show that maybe I haven't had professional experience yet, but I have learned this, and this through my classes here at UK or through even other classes maybe that you've pursued on the side?
So for me, one of the classes that really helped was, I guess there were like two or three of them, but primarily ICT 202. I think that's it's like information for technology services or something like that. I remember Dr. Greenhall taught that class. There you got like a little bit of hands-on with Linux, which a lot of the systems that are used at the state level are Linux-based systems because most of the stuff that I deal with are like databases and stuff like that that run on Linux. So like knowing those like basic commands like that really helps with it. And also with my minor being computer science, that has also really helped like with the programming like aspect of it because like here you get like SQL and like PHP, you get to do stuff like that, which are like that's really good for like database management and stuff. And then with the computer science, it hones in on like the programming skills. Like if you need to develop a program to perform a certain task, like that's what really helped me get an understanding of how programming languages work because like SQL, PHP, like C++, like they're all like similar once you understand like how each of them work. It's just a matter of understanding like the actual syntax that goes into it that really helps.
Also, for me personally, I think taking ICT 351, which was with Dr. Shirali, I think me and Jeremy, we both had that class. It was like introduction to cybersecurity, which was kind of like teaching you a lot of stuff about some home-based project on hacking, how different devices works, how you can protect your device, how you can protect assets, and all of that was a very useful class, which also helped me to gain hands-on experience with Linux and like excuse me, like a real world project experience that my internship in cybersecurity was kind of like related to that. Like everything that I learned from that class was what I was doing during my internship. So I can say that was like a big win for me that I took that class and then got an internship in cybersecurity. So I definitely recommend that for anyone who is want to go through that route of cybersecurity or pivot through IT.
So the first two things that came to mind for me, and this is kind of a twofold answer because I think that if you're interested in the research side of ICT, then, or really just research in general, Dr. Espinoza's methodology class. I don't remember, I don't know the exact name, but I know that Dr. Espinoza teaches it. That one is a great introduction class for kind of how research is structured and specifically when you're looking at it from an ICT point of view. But then if you kind of are interested in crime or the legal policy side of ICT, then definitely, well, Dr. Dowell's 205, I'm pretty sure, ICT policy, and then a I think it might be an upper level class, but it's a cybercrime class, like 500, and I do not remember the professor's name, but yeah.
Was that like I want to say it was like ICT 550 or something like was it the digital cybercrime and law enforcement
Yes,
class?
that's the one.
Yeah,
That's
that was,
the
yeah, that
one.
was a good class.
And it was asynchronous too, so
Yeah,
I will say that is ICT 552 for anyone who thinks that sounds interesting. And I
552.
think the research class that Fernanda mentioned is 310, I believe.
That sounds right. I'm not really great with numbers, but thank you.
Sarah Jane, I love having you here for all of the knowledge of the course catalog.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
So we've talked a little bit about getting the internship. What was the first day like? What was training, onboarding? Can you tell us a little bit about what to expect once students actually get into that internship?
So for me, day one, because I used to do this like on the week, like there was just there 1 week in a month. Like I used to just go in and do it, but actually going in almost every day, I go in like 3 times a week. I'm not gonna lie, but like actually like in person, I do like I said, it's asynchronous, but uh, asynchronous is hybrid. It's hybrid. Um, so like for me, like just switching from that, okay, I'm gonna do this 1 week in a month to I have to do this every day now. They kind of like they didn't just throw me in like with the expectation that okay, he's been doing this for like 3 or 4 years now. Like I think he's got it. It was like a sort of like a role change, like because now I'm actually managing systems, whereas like I used to just do stuff on the weekends, like to make it operational to last a month. Now I can do like day to day like tweaks and stuff. So instead of just throwing me in there, they kind of gave me like a mentor. So he was the previous database systems administrator, and he's actually out on leave right now, which is why they got me like, which is why I'm in there. But before he left, I kind of like shadowed him. He's like, "This is basically how we do this. Oh, here's a knowledge base. Those are really good to have. If your company has like a knowledge base, that helps me out a lot. So look for one that has one of those."
Jeremy, can you explain what a knowledge base is for
Oh
those of
yeah,
us on the call that might not be aware?
right. So like a knowledge base is basically like problems that you ran into before. They document the problems on there, and then like you can literally go like search it up. Like I'm just like how to configure a query and like enter. It's like, oh look, like there's documentation for how to do it. And sometimes you can copy paste, like so. So that's kind of how that works. It's pretty nice. It's like ChatGPT.
I love it, Jeremy. I love the candidness, love the energy. Anyone else want to talk about their first day and onboarding training? We could even expand to first week.
Yeah, I think the first week of both of my internship was kind of through the sessions of trainings and also meeting with my manager. So like, the training sessions are usually about you're going to learn a little bit about security, how to set up your email, how you're going to log in, getting used to all of that. And also learning about who's going to be your manager and what expectations do they have from you. So, for example, for me, I do have a one-on-one session with my manager every week. And this is something that they told me the first day. They were like, okay, she's your manager. She's going to work with you. You're going to meet like in one-on-one, kind of like a performance review, but like checking to see if you're doing okay, if you need any help, or anything like that. So yes, for me personally, it was a lot of learning and training sessions, meeting my manager, and kind of also getting used to the office environment, meeting everyone who's doing what, and all of that.
I love it, Fernanda.
Yeah, my first day was kind of similar to Hosna's because it was just getting familiar with the systems that we were going to be using and laying out kind of a plan for the next 6 months and kind of a timeline. So just pretty simple introductory things.
Is there anything that surprised y'all about your internship, like the transition from going to college classes or maybe working other jobs to actually becoming an intern within a field that you would hopefully like to pursue in the future?
Yeah, I think I would say communication. Because as a college student, you try to avoid as many people as possible. You put your headphone and you're like, don't interrupt me. I don't want to talk. But once you become an intern, you do the job, you need to communicate. You need to talk with people and as much as possible, because that's the only way they're going to get to know you. That's the only way that you get your job done. So I would say communication and talking and asking questions. That's the key thing when you getting an internship. You need to get out of your comfort zone and communicate with everyone.
As for me, I guess what kind of surprised me is the fact that yeah, I didn't just get like thrown into this because that's what I was actually really nervous about was the fact that like, all right, there's this new position that's open. I've been doing this for 4 years now. Like, yeah, I was just like nervous that they were just gonna be like, all right, well, you're an intern, good luck. Here's some resources, but I don't. Okay, so like that is like not something that you should be worried about that much because like it sounds like everyone else on the panel has like kind of had like that like little shadow like to go around like they don't expect you to know exactly what you're doing like the first day like you're not going to be an expert. That's why it's like nice like they give you like a little bit of training like help you get into like a routine and then after that they kind of back off a little bit but like I've always got like his name is George. I always have George to kind of go to and be like, hey, like does this look good, like if I'm submitting this up to like the hires like in the company like is it a good product to pitch to them, like so just having that person that you can always go to and then like having them check in on you like that's a big thing that was like really nice. So
I think that something that I was surprised by, and I don't know if this maybe fits into the category of expectations, but I kind of went into it thinking, okay, I'm going to be collecting all of this data on these legal lawsuits, um, synthesizing through all of this information, putting it on an Excel sheet, and that's about it. I guess that's really as much as I thought that was going to happen. But then my supervisor started sending me these R Studio workshops to sign up to every month, and I wasn't expecting that because I've never coded with R before. I didn't even know what to have downloaded before walking in. So I think all in all, the message from that tidbit is just expect anything. And it's an opportunity to grow in a certain area.
I really like it. It makes me happy that y'all have kind of touched on what I would say is almost like a little bit of grace that your internship supervisors, managers, colleagues have given, especially when it comes to just training and kind of figuring out where your knowledge base is at. I want to shift a little bit to, can you remember if you've made a mistake at your internship and how you kind of handled it and bounced back from that? Because I try to tell my students that you're never going to know everything and mistakes are inevitable. So I would love it if y'all had any examples of that and kind of how you came back from it.
okay, so this one time um we were out in the field and the main goal was to take fiber optic cable and run it from our server stack. And we had to run it to this pedestal, which the pedestal went up to the power line and then it went however, however far it like needs to go to get like to another location. So for me, I was like, all right, cool. We're gonna put this fiber down. So I put the fiber like on the ground and stuff because that's what my supervisor was like. Just put it on the ground. and I had like second thoughts about it. I'm like, I don't know, because like there's glass and like this is fiberglass in here. Like if someone runs over this, it's gonna break, and then we're gonna lose our internet. So I did what she said, because she was higher than the George is. So I was like, all right. So I'll run it across the ground. And then I was like, well, do we have any of those like little like hump things like that you like could put in there so like cars can like drive over it? She's like, no. But it needs to be operational because we can't see the aircraft in the sky right now. And I'm like, all right. I was like, I really think we should we should dig and go under and then come up. She didn't want to do that because she's like, nope, it needs to be done now. So I did it. About 30 minutes in, fiber snapped, lost our internet. Commander comes in, he is mad, and he's like, why can't I see the helicopters? And I'm like, yeah, I know exactly why you can't see the helicopters, sir. And so he's like, why? I'm like, because the fiber probably snapped. And I walked out there, and sure enough, I looked at it, and it snapped. Well, you can't fix fiber without a certain certification. You actually have to be certified to fix that. So I had to take all of that fiber cable that I just got done putting out there, grab another one, and then I'm like, I'm doing this my way, because like that way we're not doing that again. So I took two antenna like poles, stuck them because I had to go over a valley, stuck one on one side, one on the other, and literally just ran it across the sky. I'm like, and then I made sure there was enough clearance to where like the bigger trucks could get in. I think it was like 14 feet or something. I'm like, yep. And then no problems after that. So like sometimes like if you have a good idea, maybe just like mention it to them. Like don't do what I did and just be like, okay. Like even though like if something feels wrong, maybe bring it up because that might be something that they overlooked. So that's what I've got.
Anyone else have anything? Oh, Fernanda. Yeah.
I really would just say save everything onto a hard drive. I deleted all of our data once on accident, and that's what our entire research was at that point in time. And I didn't save anything onto the hard drive, so we had to start over again. So, yeah.
I think for me, after 2 weeks into the internship, we had a case study project within the team, and all of us had our own tasks to do. And I think I did my part wrong, and we were like 2 days before we presented to our managers and all other people working in the office. So we were all kind of like very nervous and stressed out about it, but that what we should do because it's a team project and the team is gonna fail. And I think one thing that I did was that I owned my problem, my mistake that I did, and I was like, I'm gonna fix this. This is what I did. This is what went wrong. So I'm working on it. And I remember I took some extra time that night and I worked from home. And I fixed the issue. And the next morning, I was like, it's gone. I did it. Everything is fine now. We can continue with the project and all of that. I think that was really nice, owning my own mistake and trying to fix it. So yeah.
Love it. Okay, I'm going to ask one more question and then I will open it up to the audience so they can ask questions. Do y'all have a favorite project that you have worked on while at any of your internships?
All right, so mine, we have this server stack, and the biggest thing that I'm working on right now is because all of the units resources and state resources are on this server stack because it's secret. So like we can't, it's not just something you can like put in the cloud and then it's good. Like you have to have a local server. Well, those server stacks are like 2 or 3 years outdated, and now we have to update them. So like what they've got me doing right now is like reconfiguring the server stacks, which involves like me going into the console. Like I've learned a lot of console commands like Stack Overflow, like GitHub. Like those are all like really good sites that have helped me. And then me and my supervisor George, we've been working on that. So we do that like day to day because ideally they want it up by September of this. Yeah, September 2025 is when they want it to be fully operational. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done. But like being a part of something like that big, like to me, is that's pretty cool that they're trusting like a 22-year-old like to like kind of help with that. So yeah.
Um, I'd say probably I am working on one big project, so I'd say my favorite part of the project has been looking at a bunch of just different cases that um, the the research is about First Amendment rights when it comes or First Amendment lawsuits when it comes to social media platforms, specifically Meta. Um, and I've just really enjoyed reading all of the different lawsuits because it's a lot of them, although they are related to the First Amendment, um, they just range and it's very interesting. And so it's little stories in one, and that's been my favorite part.
I think for me, one of my favorite project that I did was within my cybersecurity internship, where I was creating a disaster recovery scorecard. Now, for those of you that they don't know what's a disaster recovery scorecard, it's basically each application that a company has. For example, it could be Microsoft Word or Excel. They should have like a backup plan. Like, what if Microsoft Teams doesn't work? What are we going to use? What are some of the ways that we can communicate still with each other, even if it's down? So I created a disaster recovery plan for all top critical application that they had, which was like 200 or something. And I had to interview those application owners and ask them questions about the application and if they have a backup plan, if they run any disaster recovery plan, like a monthly basis or yearly basis. And I think that's something that was really interesting for me was that interviewing each one of them, and sometimes some application owner had no idea what will happen if their application is down. So I think that was really interesting because I had no idea about what's going on the background when a company uses several applications. What is a disaster recovery plan at the first place? So that was, I think, a really interesting project within the cybersecurity that I did because I think when people think about cybersecurity, they always go with if it's hacking, if it's like a red team or a blue team, but there's like so much, so different aspect of cybersecurity that you can work on.
Okay, y'all, as promised, do we have questions from the audience? You can also put them in the chat and I will read them out loud if you do not want to come off mute.
I have a quick question if you don't mind. So, for anyone who has worked a regular job versus an internship, I was wondering if you could talk about what the differences are, either in expectations or for either yourself or your managers.
I guess for me, the because the job I had like before this, I worked in TV production. Like I was doing like rough cuts and stuff like that. So like with the internship, it's nicer because you're constantly getting guidance or being guided through certain processes because most likely when you get a job like as an intern, that company might be looking to hire you after the fact, like after your internship is like complete, or like they know that, okay, this is like you're trying to develop a skill set. So there's no reasonable expectation that you actually, I don't want to say like know what you're doing, but there's no reasonable expectation as to why you should be like an expert. Whereas like a job, you might get like, a couple of days of training and then they're like, all right, you good? And then like, all right, like good luck out there. So, and then they don't really like guide you like much past that. So like that's the nice thing about like an internship is that constant like feedback, like how are you doing, like stuff like that. Like all right, that wasn't the best solution. Here's what you can do better, so that when you go into getting a job, you won't make like the same mistakes you did the first time.
Yeah, I think Jeremy explained it all, but I want to talk about the aspect of it being a student and doing an internship. I think it comes with a lot of flexibility, especially with the place that you do an internship, because they know that you are a student. So I can talk from my own experience that my internship is kind of like if I say I have an exam tomorrow and I cannot come and complete this task by a certain date, they're not gonna expect me to do it because it's my job. They're like super flexible. They're like, okay, take your time, take your exam based off luck. You can do it later on, like next week, not a problem. And I think this is like a big thing, especially when you are a student and you need that flexibility that your work environment should show you. So I would say that's the biggest part about being an intern versus a full-time employee.
I think that being an intern in an academic setting, like one would be in research, is a little bit different than a lot of other fields. So directly to answer your question, I'm a server, and obviously it depends on where you're working, what you're doing. So any job outside of an ICT career internship is going to be different. But I think that what I'm getting at is the comfort to it, because being in an academic setting, there is a certain level of comfort, even if you're moving from being a student to doing the research or later on maybe a professor. Um, I think that there's that level of comfort that getting out of your comfort zone might be something that you would do outside of an academic environment, if that makes sense.
Great question. We do have a couple that have come in the chat. The first one from Sam, which if none of you want to answer this, I understand. I can always take it as our career coordinator, but how much are you looking at in terms of pay for an internship? Is it job specific when it comes to paid internships, or are they all paid? I will take the first just stab at this, and if y'all want to add to it, please feel free. I will say not all internships are paid. Obviously, I would adore it if every single internship was paid. That would make me jump for joy. But I will say sometimes students do take unpaid internships if they just think the ROI is going to be great. And I will say in general, I've seen everywhere from around $10 to literally right around that like $22 range for interns, depending on the company, the position. And I will say some of my students that go more commission based. So if there's potential for sales or anything along those lines, typically they are able to earn a little more. But panelists, feel free to add or disagree with anything I said.
Yeah, I'll add to that, especially like that last part. Like, I don't work on commission, but basically I work on contract. So I have a contract with the state to work uh, on their systems, or I can work for certain companies who employ me to work on their systems. So it's based on who the state partners with. Now, on contracts, what you have to look out for is, like I said, I'm on a GS, a general schedule pay scale, but in the contract, I'm not actually getting a salary. It's an hourly internship. I won't go salary until the internship's over and I roll over into the position if I'm accepted. That's where they kind of like put like that fine print on there. And another thing to look for if you're working on a contract is what the buyout is. So if you want to break the contract, so for me, if I wanted to go potentially work somewhere else, that company would have to incur the cost of the buyout. Otherwise, I would have to pay like the state. I think my buyout's like $40,000 or something like that. for them to break the contract so that I can work for another company. So like I would be careful with contracts, like unless you know you're gonna like lock in for the whole duration. So because then, obviously if I don't like go anywhere, like I won't have to pay the $40,000. But find a company, if you are gonna break it, that's willing to cover that cost, because like you can end up in like some sort of like financial situation there. So
I think I just want to add to the aspect of the work because it's important. Like for me personally, I was always like, I want an internship to pay me. Because I know we're all college students, we need money. But I think when looking for the jobs, I would say there is a difference. If you want to work with a private sector rather than like a public one, and the amount of money that they pay you is completely different. I have seen most of the private corporate jobs to pay more for interns, and I see public sometimes to pay more, but it's different. Both of the internships that I personally had and have at the moment are corporate and private, and they pay really good. It's in a good range, and their internships are paid. So I would say when it comes to the internships, even when you apply, you can see that if it's paid or unpaid, or you can bring it up once, during your internship or as a last question. Because I know sometimes the salary is a little bit taboo, or like the pay, and people don't want to talk about it. Um, but I think it's a good question, and it's a good thing to ask if it's not mentioned in the job description when you applied. Or I think even they will be able to like give you some information about the pay. Because whenever I got an internship, like an interview for the job that they had no mentioning of like how much they pay, they usually said it in the interview that this is like 15 an hour or like 20 an hour. Um, so I think that will not be an issue, but I would keep an eye on private versus public sectors.
I do want to add one little thing, because everything they're saying is I agree with. It just depends on what you're doing. Uh, I'm doing my internship for credit, and because I'm doing it for academic credit, I'm not able to apply to I guess the research competitions that the university offers, which would pay me money. So like any type of fellowship or anything, because I am receiving credit. So I think that's also something that you should keep your eye out for if you're receiving credit for it, and how that is going to affect, I don't know, the money or ability to make money.
We'll also add one more thing that I try to tell students is keep in mind, because obviously if you are ICT or any of the other majors that have to do an internship for credit, if you opt to do it during the summer and it's an unpaid internship, you are paying to do that for the credit. So just things and like to think about, and it's a very one-off with each person and specific. Like Fernanda had a great I don't even know, great example of how it is so different for everyone depending on what you're doing. And even Hosna said that about like if you're public versus private. So it is a good thing to think about of when you are doing this internship. And I'm gonna hit Elizabeth's question quickly, and then I'll ask Jessica's question to the panel. But when it comes to how far out should you apply slash look for internships, I would say it is never too early, y'all. Even if you reach out and they're like, oh, we're not hiring yet. Okay, but then at least you know when should I be applying to, let's say like Hosna's Coastal does internships for ICT students all the time. So maybe you reach out right now and you say, hey, I'm just checking in to see. I'm currently a junior studying ICT at the University of Kentucky. I would love to do an internship with you in the fall. I heard all about it from Ask the Intern in ICT with Hosna. She had a great experience. I haven't seen any mention of an application on your website, so I just wanted to check in on what the timeline is. So that's just to go more off of Elizabeth's question. Some companies have like very set, this is when we do it, but that's not always information that's easily let's say, findable or easy to see. So I don't think there's any harm in being very professional and just reaching out and checking in to say, hey, want to know when this application is going to open up, just because every company does it so differently. And even like at our internship and career fair that we had some employers that are looking for summer, some looking for fall, and some looking for year round. So that's the only caveat is not all companies really have a set structure of this is exactly when we're doing it. And there's such variation that I would rather you be early than be late. That's what I'll say. On to Jessica's, which I think will be our last question. What skills did y'all utilize the most during your internships?
Definitely problem solving skills. Um, so I know they teach you like a little bit of like, like problem solving techniques and stuff here, like throughout the ICT program. And just putting those to good use, that has really helped a lot. So that's probably like the biggest thing most of the time is just how you're gonna get like stuff done. Because they put like a pretty good amount of trust in you. And it's just like, hey, we've got this problem. You're going to work with this team member to do it. And then so you just kind of collaborate with whoever that is and then see what the end result is.
I also want to add to that in general, when you get a job and you go and start working, what you do right now with working on your assignment, on Excel, on Word is different. I would say this is gonna seem like very basic, but I would say master the skills of how to use Excel and Word, and that's gonna save you a lot. Like Excel is just not putting about the numbers. There's so much going on. You're gonna need it for every single bit of the task that you do. If it's in private, if it's in public sector, just try to learn all the basics and even advance if you can in Microsoft Suits. That's gonna save you a lot of time when you get your internship.
Excel, you cooked with that one. Excel is really definitely something that you should work on before. But this might be a hot take. I think you should use all of the resources available to you, and that includes ChatGPT. I read a lot, not outside, yes, of school, but for my internship, I have been having to read a lot, and I don't understand a lot of what I'm reading. And so by putting this information, it's a lot of legal jargon and words that I'm just not used to, terminology. So I've started using ChatGPT and it has helped so much. It's made the work so much more efficient and the time that I'm putting into the work. So I think that especially I think right now we should be using the tools that we do have and that are available to us and don't be afraid to do that.
Okay, I know we are out of time, but I just want to do a quick little virtual clap for all of our panelists. I'm so happy. This is our first Ask the Intern specifically for ICT, and y'all killed it. So I'm very thankful for all of our panelists and everyone who attended. I'm sure is the best way to reach out to y'all if any of the students want to via LinkedIn or email, or what's the best way if anyone wanted to follow up with y'all?
I think for me personally, I'm okay with both, but I think LinkedIn is a good option. I can also send them on the chat right now, my LinkedIn profile, if they want to connect or ask any question.
Thank you, Hosna.
I'll put my email in the chat. I need to update my LinkedIn profile.
You're good. Thanks, Fernanda.
I'll put my LinkedIn and my email in the chat.